Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now the FX 6350 offered a slightly higher clock speed than the 6300 and also came packaged with AMD's new Wraith cooler. This chip's direct competition was the i3 6100, which back in 2013 offered similar or sometimes better gaming performance than the FX. Here we are a week shy of 8 years since the release of the 6350 and we're going to test out its performance, albeit with a budget or what used to be budget graphics card. You might think that we need more than an AMD 5500 XT to get the most out of this chip, and although I wish that were true, most of the time it just isn't. With that said, there were times when the graphics card was maxing out before the processor, but the 6350 still caused some huge frame dips in those scenarios, which could at times be off-putting. Still, I won this for just £16 in an eBay auction, the processor, not the graphics card that is, so I can't complain too much. We've bumped the chip up a little bit to 4.4 GHz, which seemed to be the highest stable figure with this exact one. But I do know that they can and will go higher. It's all luck of the draw. So if you're on a budget, should you look out for one of these? Well, if you want to play Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, then probably not. The 3 modules and 6 cores of this thing are the limiting factor and will cause some severe frame dips as shown by the state of the frame time graph on screen. However, my disappointment soon turned to surprise when I found out that this thing could actually handle Cyberpunk. I think it would have been unrealistic to pair this processor with a higher end GPU, especially now when higher end GPUs are a lot harder to find and cost a small fortune on second-hand selling sites. Even the 5500 XT sells for double its original recommended retail price on the used market. While performance here may be limited somewhat by the graphics card in equal measure then, the stutters and frame times were most definitely caused by the CPU. The 40 or so average is fine, or would be fine, as I know what to expect from the card, but it's the dips and micro freezes which make the experience unpleasant, and this is what determines if a CPU is still holding up well or not. The 6350 also causes issues with Fortnite, though to some extent it is still playable. I've definitely called worse experiences playable on this channel. The weird thing is though that the high CPU usage caused the game to assume that the internet is dropping out. I've seen this before here with other processors, but it doesn't cause any latency or lag issues that would usually occur with a weak signal. I just get the internet symbol come up, but gameplay wise it's okay. I made a right mess of trying to cross this river, but unfortunately there's nothing a better CPU could do for me. This is a human problem. So in Red Dead Redemption 2 I used Digital Foundry's Xbox One X equivalent settings again, although we were of course running at 1080p. When you're away from towns, just venturing around in the countryside, it's not uncommon to see 60 FPS or more. Heading towards town, particularly Valentine, caused the CPU usage to rise, but because the game is more GPU dependent, we didn't really see any stuttering, so to speak, and the percentile lows were actually pretty good. With that said, the 5500 XT is certainly more capable than this with a better CPU, and even my 4GB version, which appears to be using close to its memory limit, sits closer to 60 FPS when inside my personal i5 rig. So the CPU is still causing an overall lower frame rate. If you lock the game to 30 though, for example, then you'd be having a great time. Now I can't remember when Ubisoft released an optimization patch for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but ever since they did, I've been seeing way better performance from older processors. When this game first came out, an FX 6350 would buckle under the strain of this beautiful next-gen title, but now, even when running into crowded towns and settlements, things remain a lot smoother. Now it's not perfect, but it is a playable experience, and I didn't think that it would be, so there's that. Again though, just like in Red Dead, a 30 FPS lock would be beneficial to the frame times, but it might seem a little unnecessary given the close to 60 FPS average on occasion, which would be a shame to sacrifice, though without locking the game then you are going to see some pretty big dips from 60 to say 45, and you are going to feel them. Finally then, it's another Ubisoft game that doesn't do so well. Although the CPU usage wasn't hitting 100% in Watch Dogs Legion, you've only got to look at the 5500 XT usage to know that this thing is being held back quite significantly. It's no surprise really, as Watch Dogs Legion causes issues with tons of older processors, or at least ones I've tested, but I thought we may as well see what sort of performance hit we'd be taking here with the old FX. Overall, it is holding up better than I thought, but don't go pairing it with a 2080 or something silly. An RX 570 or 580 would probably be the highest I'd go, or the 1050 Ti or 1060 on the Nvidia side of things, perhaps even the 5500 XT here if it wasn't so expensive. But 8 years later, and this CPU that I now found for £16, down from its £105 or so RRP, is just about hanging in there. And I'm sure that any users or owners of this chip would probably agree. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like on it down below, leave a dislike if you didn't, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, let me know if you still use one of these, and hopefully I'll see all of you in the next one.